Chosen one. That phone in your pocket is about to ring. Unknown number, but your pulse won't spike from fear. It'll spike from recognition, because deep in your bones you've been waiting for this call your entire life. You moved so smart that the FBI wants to recruit you for psychological warfare. In a windowless room 3 states away, someone is closing a file with your name on it. Your behavioral patterns, your uncanny ability to read people before words leave their lips, how you navigate chaos while others drown in panic. The person staring back from your mirror isn't who you think it is. That civilian mask has hidden something rare, something dangerous. You are the wolf who spent years disguised as sheep, and someone finally caught your scent. You're not prey being hunted. You're the predator who's been hiding in plain sight, about to remember exactly how sharp your psychological warfare capabilities truly are. Look back at your life with new eyes. Every betrayal was a masterclass they designed. Every rejection was training they orchestrated. Every moment you felt like an outsider was preparing you for solo operations where backup doesn't exist. That friend who ghosted you without explanation, unconscious training officer. Course title, Emotional Independence. Your grade, Perfect Execution. That boss who passed you over for every promotion, deep cover instructor. Lesson plan, Learn to operate without recognition. Mission status, completed with honors. The family members who never believed in you were conditioning specialists. Their job, eliminate your need for external validation. Make you psychologically bulletproof. Method, brutal but effective. You developed capabilities they don't teach in universities. You learned to scan rooms before entering them. That pause at doorways isn't hesitation. It's a tactical assessment. Power dynamics, exit strategies, emotional temperatures. Others stumble into social warfare blind. You already mapped the battlefield. Watch how you influence without speaking. That subtle head tilt that makes someone feel heard. The strategic silence that creates pressure until secrets spill out. The way you position yourself to intercept conversations while appearing distracted. This isn't accident. This is mastery. You know who's lying before they complete their first sentence. You spot the micro-expressions others miss. The voice inflections. The energy shifts. You've been running advanced human analysis software your entire life without realizing it was classified technology. But something bigger is happening. Those skills you thought were survival mechanisms, they're actually weapons, and someone has been cataloging every single one. They don't recruit the obvious candidates, not the loud ones begging for attention, not the flashy performers putting on shows. They recruit the invisible masters, the ones who learned survival by becoming psychologically untouchable, the ones who transformed pain into power, rejection into strategic advantage, isolation into operational independence. Every person who hurt you was working for them. They just didn't know it. Your ex who cheated taught you to detect deception patterns, to read guilt in body language, to trust instincts when energy doesn't match words. That heartbreak wasn't random cruelty. It was advanced training in behavioral analysis. The bullies who tried to break you were actually strengthening you. Every insult was conditioning you for psychological warfare. Every time they overlooked you, you learned to observe them. Every rejection sharpened your ability to read their weaknesses and exploit their blind spots. You thought the universe was punishing you. It was actually preparing you for missions they couldn't comprehend. You weren't just being trained, you were being tested. Every challenge was an examination. Every crisis was a skills assessment. And you passed every single one with flying colors. The phone is about to ring because you graduated, summa cum laude from the University of Psychological Warfare. Your diploma was written in scars, but your credentials are unquestionable. Your greatest strength isn't what you show the world. It's what you keep hidden until the perfect moment strikes. The response they never anticipated. The move they couldn't predict. The psychological strike they didn't see coming. You're not just intelligent, you're operationally dangerous. Every conversation is intelligence gathering. Every interaction is data collection. You've mastered the art of strategic invisibility. While others perform their importance demanding attention like children, you remain in the shadows, watching, learning, calculating their next 3 moves before they make their first. You make people feel safe enough to reveal everything. They tell you their fears, their secrets, their weaknesses, because you create an environment of false security. Information flows toward you like water finding its level. Natural, inevitable, unstoppable. You plant ideas in conversations that grow in their minds like they were their own thoughts. You ask questions that lead them to your conclusions. You tell stories that contain your messages. By the time they adopt your perspective, they believe it originated in their own consciousness. This isn't manipulation. This is survival in a world where information is power, and naive people become casualties of war. But something else is happening. Something that will reshape everything you think you know about reality. You're not just using these abilities randomly. You're using them with precision that suggests training you don't remember receiving. If this message speaks to your soul, hype this video so other chosen ones can discover it. While they called you intense, difficult, too much, they were actually identifying your operational advantages, that darkness they couldn't handle. That's your strategic depth. The chaos they feared, that's your creative unpredictability that makes you impossible to counter. You don't think like them because you're not like them. They produce predictable soldiers who follow orders without question. They need unpredictable strategists who see solutions in shadows, people who can navigate moral complexity without losing their operational effectiveness. Your willingness to explore psychological territories others won't enter isn't corruption, it's liberation from their limitations. You remain calm in chaos because chaos is your natural environment. You see options others can't imagine because you're willing to consider possibilities they're too afraid to explore. Sometimes you have to break their rules to win their game. Sometimes the hero has to think like the villain to protect what matters. Sometimes sanity is just another word for limited thinking that gets people killed. What they feared about you is exactly what makes you valuable. What they couldn't understand about you is precisely what makes you dangerous. Your perceived darkness isn't a character flaw to fix. It's a tactical advantage to weaponize. The FBI doesn't recruit choir boys. They recruit people who understand that the world operates on multiple levels of reality, and sometimes you have to descend into hell to bring back the intel that saves lives. You're about to discover that your darkness isn't something to hide from. It's something to step into fully and use with devastating precision. Stop thinking like a civilian. Start operating like an asset. Every social gathering is an intelligence collection. Every workplace meeting is information warfare. Every family dinner is psychological reconnaissance designed to update behavioral profiles. Your mind is now a threat assessment computer running constantly in the background. Every person you meet gets categorized automatically. Ally, enemy, neutral party, useful asset, potential liability. Everyone serves a purpose. Everyone reveals critical information if you know how to extract it. That office small talk. You're gathering data about power structures and hidden alliances that determine who really runs things. That casual conversation with neighbors. You're mapping social networks and influence patterns that could prove strategically valuable. That phone call with relatives. You're updating psychological profiles and emotional trigger catalogs. You're not paranoid. You're professionally observant. Paranoia assumes everyone is against you. Professional observation assumes everyone has motivations, and your job is to identify them before they act on them. The most powerful people in any room are the ones you don't notice immediately. While everyone watches the loud performer demanding attention, the real operator sits quietly in the corner, observing, calculating, influencing outcomes, without anyone realizing they're being influenced by a master. You've already mastered this art without formal training. Now you're making it conscious and deliberate. But something unprecedented is happening. You're not just observing anymore. You're beginning to orchestrate, and that changes everything about the game being played. The only people you can rely on are those who know you're dangerous. Think about it strategically. People who see you as harmless will abandon you the moment it becomes convenient for them. But someone who recognizes your capabilities, they understand that betrayal carries consequences that extend far beyond the immediate situation. Respect generates more reliable loyalty than affection ever could. Calculated fear creates stronger bonds than love. This isn't cynicism. This is operational reality that keeps you alive and effective. Examine every relationship through strategic assessment protocols. Who would sell you out for the right offer? Most of them, if the price were high enough. Who would defend you without asking questions? Very few, and you need to know exactly who they are. Who sees your potential and who perceives you as a threat? The answer determines everything about how you interact with them moving forward. Your family members who constantly criticize you recognize you as a threat to their comfortable mediocrity. Your friends who try to limit your growth need you small so they can feel big by comparison. Your colleagues who undermine you see your capabilities clearly and fear being replaced by someone superior. Their resistance isn't personal, it's strategic self-preservation. They're protecting their position in a hierarchy they don't realize you're about to transcend completely. Trust isn't emotional currency to be given freely. It's a strategic calculation based on mutual benefit, shared risk, or calculated deterrence. Map every relationship like a tactical situation requiring constant assessment. Everyone gets classified. Everyone serves a function. The phone is about to ring because they've been watching how you handle trust, how you weaponize it, how you use it to control outcomes without people realizing they're being controlled. The most effective conversations happen in the silence between words. That pause after someone asks you a question isn't empty space waiting to be filled. It's psychological pressure building to critical levels. That silence forces them to fill the void with truth they never intended to share. Master the tactical pause. 3 seconds of calculated quiet after their question creates more pressure than any aggressive interrogation technique. They'll start talking faster, saying more than they planned, revealing information they meant to keep hidden forever. Your silence becomes their confessional booth, and you become their priest, hearing secrets that give you power. Ask questions that extract more intelligence than they provide answers. What makes you say that? Forces them to examine their own logic and expose their reasoning process completely. How did that make you feel? Opens emotional doors they can't close once you've walked through them. What would happen if? Makes them imagine scenarios that reveal their deepest fears and hidden motivations. Your questions become surgical instruments, cutting straight to their psychological core without them realizing they're being dissected by an expert. Use their own words as evidence against them in future conversations. Remember what they said last week. Reference it today in a different context that creates cognitive dissonance. But didn't you tell me? Forces them to choose between contradicting themselves or admitting they were wrong about something important. Either way, you control the outcome completely. Language isn't communication between equals. It's psychological warfare where the skilled practitioner always wins. Every word is a strategic move designed to advance your position. Every sentence serves a specific purpose in your larger campaign. Every conversation is a battlefield where information is the prize, and psychological pressure is your primary weapon. But here's what's about to change everything. The phone is ringing because they've been monitoring how you use these techniques, how you extract information, how you control conversations, how you make people tell you things they swore they'd never tell anyone. The phone rings, unknown number, just like you knew it would. But your pulse doesn't spike from fear. It spikes from recognition, from the deep satisfaction of a prediction confirmed, because somewhere in your consciousness, you always knew this moment would arrive. We've been watching you, the voice says, and suddenly, every strange experience in your life snaps into perfect focus, like a camera finding its target. This isn't about what you think you know about yourself. While you thought you were just surviving, they were documenting excellence. While you thought you were being ordinary, they were cataloging extraordinary capabilities. In a world full of performers desperately seeking attention like children, you became the director controlling the entire production. While everyone else screamed, "Look at me," you were studying the audience, learning their weaknesses, planning your next move 3 steps ahead. You learned the most dangerous truth of all. Real power doesn't announce itself with fanfare. Real power observes silently, calculates precisely, then strikes with devastating effectiveness when the moment is perfect. You moved so smart, the voice continues, that we want to make it official. Welcome to Psychological Warfare, Operative. Your training is complete. Your real mission begins now. The comfortable delusion of ordinary life dies in that moment. The mask you wore for so long dissolves completely. What stares back from the mirror now is what was always there underneath. Not a victim who survived trauma, not a damaged person who got lucky, but a weapon that was forged in fire and tested under pressure until it became unbreakable. You are the wolf who spent years disguised as a sheep, studying the flock from within. You are the predator who learned patience, who waited for the perfect moment, who understood that true power comes from being underestimated until it's too late for your opponents to react. The phone call you've been waiting for your entire life has finally arrived, but here's the twist that changes everything. You're not the prey being recruited, you're the predator being activated, and everyone who underestimated you is about to discover exactly how dangerous you've always been. Welcome back to your true identity, Operative. The world has no idea what's coming. Your real life begins now. But wait, the call isn't over. There's more they need to tell you, something that will shatter your understanding of reality even further. You want to know why we noticed you? The voice continues. It wasn't just the skills, it was how you developed them without instruction. Most people need years of formal training to achieve what you accomplished through pure instinct. You've been running psychological operations on autopilot. Think about how you handle conflict. While others escalate emotionally, you de-escalate strategically. Not because you're weak, but because you understand that emotional people reveal more information. You let them exhaust themselves verbally while you gather intelligence about their pressure points, their fears, their desperate needs for validation. You've mastered the art of strategic vulnerability. You share just enough personal information to make others feel connected, but never enough to give them real ammunition against you. They think they know you, but they only know the version you've constructed for their consumption. Your memory works differently too. You don't just remember what people said, you remember how they said it. The tone that contradicted their words, the body language that revealed their true intentions, the micro-expressions that exposed their lies. You've been building psychological profiles on everyone you meet, without realizing it was classified intelligence work. That's not normal human behavior, the voice explains. That's advanced psychological reconnaissance that takes most operatives months to learn. You were born with it. Your brain processes social information differently than standard civilians. While they see conversations, you see chess moves. While they hear words, you decode intentions. While they react to emotions, you analyze the strategic purpose behind those emotions. You've been unconsciously using advanced interrogation techniques your entire life. That way you ask follow-up questions that seem innocent, but actually corner people into revealing more than they intended. That's a classified method called progressive disclosure, extraction. You developed it naturally. The way you remember exact conversations from years ago, especially the parts where people contradicted themselves. That's not normal memory. That's evidence cataloging. Your brain automatically stores information that could be strategically useful later. We've been studying your type for decades, the voice reveals. 1 in every 1,000 people develops these capabilities naturally. We call them natural-born operatives. You're not just good at psychological warfare, you're genetically predisposed for it. While other people learn social skills to fit in, you learn social skills to survive. That's the difference between a civilian and an operative. Civilians use social interaction for connection. Operatives use social interaction for intelligence gathering and influence operations. You've been unconsciously running what we call social penetration testing. Just like hackers test computer systems for vulnerabilities, you test people for psychological vulnerabilities. That way you ask seemingly innocent questions that reveal someone's deepest insecurities. You're probing for emotional backdoors you can access later if needed. Your ability to mirror people's energy and make them feel understood isn't just empathy, it's advanced psychological camouflage. You adapt your personality to match what each person needs to see, giving you access to information they wouldn't share with their actual friends. Watch how you handle group dynamics. You never try to be the leader, because you understand that real power comes from being the person the leader trusts for advice. You position yourself as the counselor, the confidant, the strategic advisor, that way you influence decisions without taking responsibility for outcomes. You've mastered what intelligence agencies call the gray man technique. You can become forgettable when you need to observe, memorable when you need to influence, and completely invisible when you need to operate undetected. Most people can't consciously control their social presence like that. The training we give our recruits is designed to replicate abilities you develop naturally. The voice continues. You've been operating at graduate level without ever taking the undergraduate course. Let's examine your arsenal more closely. You've been deploying psychological weapons without knowing they had names. That thing you do where you stay completely calm when someone is trying to provoke you. That's emotional armor plating. You've learned to become psychologically bulletproof, which forces your opponents to exhaust their ammunition while you remain unaffected and analytical. The way you can make people doubt their own memories by asking specific questions about details, that's memory manipulation through targeted inquiry. You're not gaslighting them, you're making them realize their memories aren't as reliable as they thought, which gives you informational advantage. Your ability to plant doubts about third parties during conversations. You're not gossiping, you're conducting reputation warfare, strategically adjusting how people perceive potential threats to your interests. That technique where you agree with someone's position while subtly introducing information that undermines their confidence in that position, that's called cognitive infiltration. You're changing their mind without them realizing you're changing their mind. You've developed what we call conversational aikido. Instead of opposing people's energy directly, you redirect it toward outcomes that serve your strategic interests. They feel like they're winning the conversation while you're actually achieving your objectives. Most of our operatives need extensive training to use these techniques effectively, the voice explains. You've been using them instinctively since childhood. That's not learned behavior, that's genetic programming activating under pressure. You want to know why they're calling now? Because they've been conducting a decades-long study of people like you, naturals who develop operational capabilities without formal training. They needed to understand how the process works before they could begin recruiting from this population. You've been part of an observational study without knowing it. Every time you demonstrated these abilities, someone took note. Not necessarily government agents, sometimes teachers, sometimes employers, sometimes random people who recognize something unusual about how your mind works. These observations filtered up through channels you're not aware of. A teacher mentioning to a principal that one student seemed unusually good at reading people. An employer noting that someone had an uncanny ability to predict workplace conflicts before they erupted. A therapist documenting that a client displayed advanced psychological insight without any formal training. The pattern recognition algorithms flagged you years ago, but they needed time to verify that your abilities were genuine and not just lucky guesses. They needed to confirm that you could perform under pressure, that you could maintain operational security, that you wouldn't crack under psychological stress. You've been passing tests you didn't know you were taking. Every crisis you navigated successfully. Every time you outmaneuvered someone who tried to manipulate you. Every instance where you read a situation correctly and acted on information others missed. Your unofficial training period is complete, the voice states. You've demonstrated operational readiness through real-world performance. Now we're offering you the chance to use these abilities with official backing and unlimited resources. Traditional warfare is becoming obsolete. Physical conflicts are expensive, destructive, and generate negative public relations that complicate political objectives. The future belongs to psychological operations, changing how people think, influencing what they believe, controlling how they react to information, shaping their emotional responses to events. This is the battlefield where wars will be won and lost. You've been fighting in this war your entire life without realizing it. Every time you convinced someone to see a situation differently, every time you influenced a group decision through strategic input, every time you neutralized a threat through psychological pressure rather than confrontation. But let's not sugarcoat it. The truth is still hidden. It's been twisted. It's been buried under censorship, algorithms, and fear. Yet your heart never stopped recognizing what's real. That's why you're still here. That's why you never tapped out. Because you felt the simulation glitch beneath your feet. You know this world is rigged, and you're done waiting for permission to rise. The Obsidian Inner Order wasn't built for the curious, it was forged for the committed. This is for the full-time chosen, the ones who came to lead, the ones who see beyond the veil and act anyway. Inside we hold weekly Zoom calls that cut through the noise. We share hidden teachings most were never meant to hear. We train in psychic warfare, strategy, and spiritual technologies they've kept locked away for centuries. This is the toolkit for the real ones, the ungovernable, the impossible to erase. It's time to remember who you are. The link is in the description. Your real life begins inside. Social media platforms are the new battlefields. Comment sections are trenches. Viral content is artillery. Influencers are commanding officers. And psychological operators like you are the special forces conducting precision strikes behind enemy lines. Your natural abilities make you perfect for this environment. You understand how information spreads through social networks. You know how to craft messages that seem organic, but actually serve strategic purposes. You can identify enemy operators by recognizing their manipulation techniques. We need people who can think like our adversaries, the voice explains. People who understand psychological warfare from the inside because they've been practicing it unconsciously. People who can anticipate enemy moves because they would make the same moves themselves. Something fundamental changes when you accept your true nature. You stop seeing the world through civilian eyes and start seeing it through operator eyes. Every interaction becomes an opportunity for intelligence gathering. Every person becomes a potential asset or threat requiring assessment. Your risk assessment protocols automatically upgrade. You stop trusting people just because they seem nice and start evaluating them based on their actions, their motivations, their strategic value, and their potential for betrayal under pressure. You begin viewing emotions as tactical elements rather than personal experiences. Anger becomes a tool for creating compliance through intimidation. Fear becomes a method for controlling behavior through psychological pressure. Love becomes a vulnerability that can be exploited or a resource that can be leveraged. Your communication style evolves beyond normal social interaction. Every conversation serves multiple purposes simultaneously. Surface level, maintaining relationships and gathering routine information. Deeper level, testing loyalties, updating psychological profiles, and planting strategic concepts. You develop what intelligence agencies call operational paranoia. This isn't mental illness, this is professional awareness that everyone has agendas, everyone gathers information, and everyone can be turned under the right circumstances. The transformation isn't optional, the voice warns. Once you see reality through operator eyes, you can't go back to civilian blindness. The question is whether you want to use these perceptions officially, or continue operating without support. Accept their offer, and everything changes about your capabilities. Right now you're operating solo with limited resources and no backup. Join them, and you gain access to psychological warfare infrastructure that's been developing for decades. Advanced psychological profiling databases containing behavioral analysis on millions of individuals. Predictive modeling software that can forecast how specific people will react to targeted information campaigns. Real-time social network mapping that tracks influence patterns and information flow. Professional development opportunities that will enhance your natural abilities with cutting-edge techniques. Training programs that teach advanced manipulation methods, enhanced interrogation protocols, and sophisticated influence operations. Most importantly, you gain access to other operators like yourself, people who understand how your mind works because their minds work the same way. Colleagues who can appreciate your capabilities without being threatened by them. The phone call is ending, but before it does, they need your answer. Will you accept official activation as a psychological warfare operative? Or will you return to pretending you're just another civilian who happens to be unusually good at reading people? Understand what you're choosing between. Accept, and you become part of something larger than yourself. Operations that shape global events, missions that determine how conflicts resolve, strategic campaigns that influence how millions of people think about critical issues. Decline, and you return to using elite-level psychological abilities for personal benefit only, managing workplace politics, navigating social relationships, protecting yourself from people who would exploit your kindness or manipulate your emotions. But here's what they're not telling you directly. The choice has already been made, not by them, by you. The moment you recognized the truth about your abilities, you crossed a line that can't be uncrossed. You can't pretend to be normal anymore. You can't use these capabilities unconsciously anymore. You can't claim ignorance about your psychological impact on others anymore. You are officially aware of your nature as a natural-born psychological warfare operative. The only question remaining is whether you want to use these abilities with official backing or continue operating as an independent agent with no support structure, no resources, and no protection. Take your time deciding, the voice says, but understand that people like you don't get to retire from this kind of work. Your mind will continue operating this way regardless of whether you choose to make it official. The only variable is whether you want to do it alone or with full institutional support. The line goes quiet. The choice is yours, but you already know what you're going to choose, don't you? Because everything in your life has been leading to this moment. Every skill you developed, every test you passed, every challenge you survived. Look at your hands. Those same hands that comforted friends in crisis were simultaneously gathering psychological intelligence about their weaknesses. That same voice that offered supportive words was calibrating emotional responses to maximize your influence over future decisions. Your entire social circle has been your unwitting laboratory. Every relationship was a field test of your psychological manipulation capabilities. Every friendship was an opportunity to practice emotional control techniques. Every romantic connection was advanced training in reading micro-expressions and detecting deception patterns. You tested loyalty by creating artificial stress situations and observing who remained dependable under pressure. You measured trust levels by sharing calibrated amounts of personal information and monitoring how that information was handled. You assessed threat levels by introducing controversial topics and analyzing emotional reactions. This wasn't conscious experimentation. Your operational mind was running these tests automatically, gathering data for strategic purposes you didn't yet understand. But now you understand. Every social interaction was preparing you for missions that require perfect psychological assessment capabilities. Your brain has been building a comprehensive database of human behavioral patterns, cataloging how different personality types respond to specific emotional triggers, documenting which persuasion techniques work on which psychological profiles, recording how people's decision-making processes change under various forms of pressure. You possess what most operatives spend careers trying to develop: intuitive understanding of human psychological architecture, the ability to predict how people will react before presenting them with stimuli, knowing exactly which emotional buttons to press to generate desired responses. Something irreversible happens when you accept your true nature. Your cognitive processes undergo fundamental restructuring. Thoughts that once felt random now reveal themselves as systematic analysis protocols running constantly in background processing. You stop experiencing emotions as personal reactions and start recognizing them as strategic intelligence about your environment. Anxiety becomes early warning detection of potential threats requiring defensive preparation. Anger transforms into tactical energy that can be channeled toward neutralizing opposition. Joy becomes confirmation that your influence operations are succeeding as planned. Your memory systems upgrade automatically. Details that seem trivial to your civilian consciousness now register as crucially important operational intelligence. Conversation fragments that regular people forget become permanent database entries available for future strategic deployment. Pattern recognition accelerates beyond normal human capacity. You begin seeing connections between seemingly unrelated events. Cause and effect relationships that span extended time frames become clearly visible. Strategic possibilities that others miss entirely become obvious opportunities waiting for exploitation. Your risk assessment algorithms evolve to process multiple probability scenarios simultaneously. When entering any situation, your mind automatically calculates optimal positioning for observation, influence, and extraction. Exit strategies formulate themselves without conscious planning. Contingency protocols activate before conscious awareness recognizes potential threats. Language processing transforms from communication into strategic analysis. Every word choice reveals psychological state information. Tone variations expose emotional vulnerabilities. Speech patterns indicate stress levels, deception attempts, and hidden motivations with remarkable accuracy. Your consciousness expands to encompass operational awareness that regular civilians cannot access. You develop constant peripheral monitoring of your environment while maintaining apparent focus on immediate tasks. Threat detection runs continuously without interfering with surface-level social interactions. You're remembering something now that feels ancient and familiar. This isn't the first time you've been called for duty. Your consciousness carries imprints of operational experience that extends beyond your current memory scope. Past missions, previous activations, earlier incarnations of this same fundamental purpose. You've always been a psychological warfare operative. Civilian life was just temporary assignment providing cover while you develop capabilities needed for future operations. Every experience was designed to enhance your psychological combat readiness. Your romantic relationships were training in emotional intelligence gathering and manipulation resistance. Your professional experiences were practice in organizational psychology and group dynamics control. Your family interactions were laboratories for understanding inherited behavioral patterns and genetic psychological predispositions. Academic experiences taught you how to absorb information rapidly and deploy it strategically. Social experiences developed your camouflage capabilities and influence techniques. Crisis experiences strengthened your psychological armor and emotional regulation systems. You've been unconsciously preparing for psychological warfare your entire existence. Your mind naturally gravitates towards strategic thinking because that's your fundamental programming. Your emotional detachment isn't a personality flaw. It's operational necessity that keeps you effective under pressure. Your ability to compartmentalize traumatic experiences and extract strategic value from painful situations isn't emotional dysfunction. It's advanced psychological resilience training that prepares you for missions requiring exposure to extreme psychological stress. You don't form attachments the way regular people do, because your operational mind understands that emotional dependencies create vulnerabilities that enemies can exploit. Your relationships are strategic alliances that serve mutual purposes rather than emotional bonds that compromise decision-making capabilities. This awakening isn't changing you. It's revealing what was always there beneath the social conditioning that taught you to pretend you were normal. You're not becoming a psychological warfare operative. You're remembering that you always were one. The call isn't recruiting you. The call is reactivating dormant protocols that have been waiting for the right moment to come online. Your training wasn't something that happened to you. Your training was something you designed for yourself at levels of consciousness that civilian awareness cannot access. Welcome back to your true purpose. Welcome back to the mission you temporarily forgot but never actually abandoned. Welcome back to the psychological warfare protocols that define your essential nature. You were never civilian material. You were always meant for psychological warfare. The only question was when someone would finally recognize what you've always been and offer you the chance to stop hiding your true nature. Welcome to your real life, operative. The world is about to discover what happens when natural talent meets unlimited resources. Your mission begins now.